Inside All Blacks' bold 44-man squad, target.
Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, I want you to picture this. A completely packed South African stadium, filled with over 80,000 absolutely screaming fans. We are diving into a truly historic moment in international rugby right now. We're talking about the All Blacks' return to the Republic for a traditional, grueling multi-week tour against the back-to-back world champion Springboks. This has literally been 30 years in the making. And man, Dave Rennie has just dropped an extensive 44-man squad that has completely set the rugby world on fire. Today, we're going to break down the actual logic behind these selections. We'll look at the numbers, the tactics, and the sheer physicality required just to survive in South Africa. So, let's just run through the agenda real quick. First, we'll dive into the shock omissions and the uncapped bolters. Then, we're going to analyze the absolutely grueling tour structure. After that, we'll look at Ross Cole's projected starting lineup, and finally, we'll break down the main event, Ross Cole's 3 test predictions for the series. All right, Section 1, shock omissions and bolters. Dave Rennie has named a squad that left some massive fan favorites entirely out in the cold.
I mean, the public shock surrounding the omission of Hurricanes co-captain Du'Plessis Kirifi was just palpable. You know, here is a passionate workhorse, a real people's champion who plays right on the edge, and honestly had a phenomenal Super Rugby season. Statistically, he's incredible at hitting breakdowns, making the gain line, and securing turnovers. So why on earth is he sitting at home?
Well, Dave Rennie made a really tough call here. On one hand, you have the traditional fetcher, right? Guys like Kirifi who are constantly hunting for the turnover. But on the other hand, you have Rennie's actual preference for this specific tour, the deep, physical clean-out enforcer. Take Luke Jacobson, for example. Former All Black Jacomb famously said Jacobson has concrete shoulders. Rennie wants players who can clean out long and deep, literally moving heavy South African bodies to counter Rassie Erasmus's breakdown brutality. He doesn't just want a classical open side. He needs bruising, heavy hitters who can secure that lightning-fast ball.
To build up that aggressive edge, Rennie brought 3 absolute bolters into the squad. We've got Simisi Tupou, a totally bruising number 8. Siale Lauaki, a towering tight head prop, and Josh Jacomb, a super instinctive attacking playmaker covering fly half and fullback. These guys represent the exact tactical profile Rennie is hunting for.
Let's look a little closer at Siale Lauaki. He boasts an absolutely incredible 97% tackle rate in Super Rugby. And to put that into perspective, these aren't just your standard passive tackles. They are dominant, bone-rattling collisions. Mentored by Jamie McIntosh, Lauaki brings immense physical accuracy to both the set piece and the gain line. You literally need absolute monsters to counter the Springbok pack, and Lauaki fits that bill perfectly. We've also got to highlight the incredible rise of Tupou. Just look at this wild trajectory. 2 years ago, he didn't even have a Super Rugby contract. He was literally playing Southland club footy. But he backed himself for a trial at Moana Pacifica and just completely tore it up. Unlike Ardie Savea, who acts more like a hybrid 7-8 fighting for every single yard, Tupou is a pure, classical, ball-carrying number 8 with an incredibly high work rate. He offers such a distinct point of difference for the squad.
Moving on to Section 2, the grueling tour structure. Let's see how this squad depth actually handles a 1996-style challenge.
This relentless timeline shows just how brutal the schedule really is. Look at the flow here. You've got the Stormers, Sharks, Bulls, going straight into the first test, then a midweek game against the Lions, and then right into the second test. Rennie practically has to run 2 separate teams simultaneously, a midweek Dirt Trackers team and a weekend test team. The physical and mental toll of this schedule, just constantly moving from city to city in a wildly hostile environment, honestly cannot be overstated.
Because of that crazy schedule, player management is absolutely paramount. Key leaders, most notably Captain Ardie Savea, are being heavily managed. Savea has been on an exhausting financial sabbatical and dealt with a really heavy psychological load last season. By keeping him out of these provincial games, the coaching staff is ensuring he joins the squad completely fresh, both mentally and physically, specifically for those high-stakes test matches.
To prepare for this unique kind of pressure cooker, Rennie actually brought in 11 players and Coach John Hart from the famous 1996 tour, just to share their wisdom. As Hart warns, in South Africa, everyone is against you. The media's intense, and the crowds are incredibly hostile. You basically have to manufacture internal fun and absolute unity. Even if there are 2 separate starting 15s playing on Wednesdays and Saturdays, they must operate as one unbreakable brotherhood.
But hey, here is a major reason for optimism if you're an All Blacks fan.
Dave Rennie boasts a staggering 75% win rate over South African sides in Super Rugby. That is not a fluke, folks. It proves his high-paced tactical system, which is heavily focused on quick counterattacks, fastball, and dominant collisions, actually works against the heavy, suffocation style typical of South African rugby.
Next up, Section 3, Ross Cole's starting lineup for the first test.
Up front, Cole is predicting an incredibly strategic back row. He slots Tupou Vaiai at 6 to combat the Springboks' towering lineout height. I mean, you've absolutely got to match their tall locks. Then, flanked by the concrete shoulders of Luke Jacobson doing all the dirty work at 7, Artie Savea is completely freed up at 8 to just pick his moments and create pure magic without having to bury his head in every single ruck. In the backs, Cole notes something absolutely fascinating. With Will Jordan, Damien McKenzie, and potentially Ruben Love or Harry Plummer back there, Cole sees Rennie loading up a back 3 pendulum that's just filled with playmaking fullbacks. This is specifically designed to diffuse the Springboks' suffocating high ball kicking game. Because think about it, if you drop a high ball against the box, bam, it's a scrum penalty, a line-out drive, and a try. Having multiple playmakers back there completely neutralizes their greatest weapon.
Finally, Section 4, Ross Cole Series Predictions. This is what we've been building towards.
Cole notes that we really shouldn't just look at the 3 test matches in a vacuum. Surviving the early onslaught of those hostile midweek provincial games, starting right out of the gate with the Stormers, is going to dictate the entire momentum for the tests. The Springboks are famous for their brutal opening 20 minutes. If the All Blacks can withstand that initial physical barrage without breaking, they definitely have the fitness, the bench depth, and the attacking flair to strike back and keep this series incredibly tight.
And this brings us right to Ross Cole's 3 test predictions. Ultimately, despite all the hostility, Cole predicts the All Blacks will split the 2 tests on South African soil, taking the first test but dropping the second. Finally, for his 3rd test prediction, he actually believes the All Blacks will win the highly debated final match over in Baltimore, culminating in a 3-1 overall series victory. It is a bold call for sure, and one that heavily suggests youth and speed will eventually outlast brawn.
So, what do you think? Does Dave Rennie's 44-man squad actually have the tactical brilliance and the concrete shoulders to pull off a 3-1 series victory? Or will the Springboks' sheer brutality just overwhelm them in the Republic? Leave your thoughts on this prediction down below and check the link in my bio to watch my videos.